Ni Tomala, Ananzo Pibi, Rosagi, and Tashi Delix, Tomala.
And I want to wish you all a very happy Tibetan New Year.
Ni Toma Kuzu Devo Yusha, Yubi Reva Yus.
And I also hope that everyone is doing well.
Ananzo Mutini, Jase, Mujutomi Gizebi, Jase Lale, Chutun Jires.
And so today, once again, we are continuing our Dharma teachings on Gyaltsen Nishu Tokme's 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas.
The Gindu, the Niki, Kenabala Tenso, Shivet, the Kulung, the Pay Gachambure, the Nikulung, Ziabo, Sinitini, Chudi, Sandro Cheese, Kenabal, Kulung, Ziabo, which is sin.
As always, I would like to remind you once again how important the motivation is when one is listening to Dharma teachings. Please infuse your practice of listening to the Dharma with the right motivation.
So, the Jase, Lalin Dilatini, Tomar Kewa, Batu Kewa, Juk Tamar Kewa, Sunginani Dini, Tomar Kewa de la Chubar Java, Zambar Dam Java Sutini, Bardi Kewa, Shung de la Mondo da Mushi, Mondo Chue de la Chue Dunch, the Song Savare, Mushiki Chue de la Dini, the Kibusum Gilam, Yamle, Chitanchi, Dini, Kibu. Chungu, Jingbu, Chimbo Sumch, De Naneta, Drinkups of Kibu Chimbukilam. Delaya, the Kunzuki, same gate on the Lamki, same case, each. Kunzuki, same gate. They are son tower, Marama son time on Konda. Kunzuki, same gate, de la Yamji E, Yamsha, Kapsu, the Tanda. Tonglen da daxin jeba ke nyamlen chik che tene shimba de jeto buke kapsu tene tanda kenge lamkir ki chu nyamlen che da chu da bu chu ba ta tren kapsu baba chu gi na ne pije naranzo shiba ngaba le de sare tan gyasa lalen khorang gi china gyasa lalen sudu yobi nangni tiringkapsu bavatini chudukla le de sare.
And so within these 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, the text consists of the virtue in the beginning, the virtue of the introduction, the virtue in the middle, the main part of the text, and the virtue in the end, the virtue of the conclusion. The virtue in the beginning consists of the homage and the pledge to compose, which we have already gone over. The virtue in the middle consists in the 7 steps of preliminary practice, which we have also gone over, and the main part of practice. And so we are within this main part of the practice, which consists in the path of, or the practice for the beings of the 3 types of capacity. We have already finished going over the path for beings of lesser capacity and beings of middling capacity, and are now within the path of beings of the highest capacity, which also consists of 2 parts, relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. And within relative bodhicitta, there is the practice during the meditation session and the post-meditation. The meditation session consists in tonglen, or exchanging oneself and others, which we have already gone over. And then the post-meditation consists in 10 practices for bringing negative conditions onto the path, or bringing negative circumstances onto the path. These are 10 aspects of conduct in the post-meditation. And so this is the part that we are in. And among these, we've reached the fourth of these conducts, of these post-meditation practices. And so this, within the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, consists, is the 16th practice, corresponds to the 16th practice.
당보 시디 미드 비추시 시기도 미드 비추시 디디다 맞아 송사바레 마니바 람도 켜와데 동알 람도 켜와데 밍예바 람도 켜 메바 람도 켜와세 추시디 송사바레 아니 지 죽라 시기 죽라드니 소가와 니스야 니도 소가와 니 소버가와 추니도 디디다 디네 록자 람도 켜와다 녜탑제바 람도 켜바세 Dilata dringapsu baba sokawa chuni.
Sokawa chuni karare? Dini karare?
Dilen lokjal. Lamdo kirba.
Lasso.
Nana kasek la soba se dingi kadisona digure.
Kaser lasso.
Kawa tsek kalik hakbol su tuki.
Oh, lasso.
Mangachewa de dilen lokjal do.
Dilen lokjal. Lasso. Ani nipa?
Nipa di nyetap jeba lamdo kirbas. Nyetap sena migi nyepchu jeba ngarala.
Oh, lasso.
La nyechu tang. Oh, dendrik nyechu chige lamdo kirtoba di nyidus. Ta dringapsu baba de tene dilen lokja ta nyetap jeba lamdo kirba chuni dis.
Lasso. And so among these 10 practices, these 10 conducts for bringing negative conditions onto the path, if we were to distinguish among these, the first 4 were practicing with unwanted circumstances. And so these 4 were practicing with not obtaining what one wants, practicing with enduring suffering, enduring criticism, and enduring defamation. And then the next 2 types of conduct are practices for bringing difficult circumstances onto the path, or practicing forbearance in the face of difficulty. And so the first of these is endurance of difficult circumstances, and the second is endurance in the face of disparagement.
During the Sokawa ki chuni de chedina ne de tambo de tile lokja lam de kirba se.
And so today we are within these 2. So we finished the first 4, and we are within the 2 practices regarding circumstances that are difficult to endure. And so within these 2, we are now at the first, which is enduring people's mistreatment. of us.
Dhagi bushin chebar kyang wimi, dhagla trashin tawar chenaya, ne kitabin pula mashindu, lakbar zewa jasi lalin yin sundu.
And so the root text for this reads, even if others whom I have cared for like children of my own should turn upon me and treat me as an enemy, to regard them only with special fondness and affection as a mother would her ailing child, this is the practice of all the Bodhisattvas.
Tadi tingsan desu tadi keshi normal insa re tingido mi mang chiwa chigi tadi tanda khanse gore dhagi bushin chebar kyang wimi sidu zani tingsan mi mangbo chigda chungju ni yana rangi pukure yana ni mi rangi chokore yana ni rangi pingyare ta denzo changma la chungju ni deni rangi puku nashin tache ta rangi puku la ta inji miji ta puraya tenda la maho bare ina ya rangi ta chi miji la rewa chenpo jiche teni midi rewa chenpo di karirasana kasi kola nga ji pen tokso na nge pen takba ina di maomba la kogi nga la su pen tokyo re samba ji ngura di su ina yungure di indu kola ta kurang la kwegi ta kwe lo re yana sama re satung re yana ni khangba re yana mota re ta kari kogi yo kari gogi yo tenzo tsangma jik mi jiki yakpo ji chi ji kola tebe chi ani yakpo ji chi ta yakpo ji chi nima chi kola lobjong te ta lobjong e mewa de lobjong te lobjong kari gogi yo di tsangma te chi ta te sa ni kurang nima ji yakpo goten chi gote po cha ta ko goya mere ta kurang la dik der ta kurang lobjong ya yakpo cha ta lobjong cha sa to te koya lega ya rotup gi lega rotup te kurang la ya uji ya ra ge la cha ji ta di sangma ra yang do zani ta ma rangi mi ji gi thi chimbo chong sha jo di ko chemba ji ru te chemba je ba ma se reng ta dong kong gi mi di ge chula len lok che 네, 저랑 말라 가야지 요 말에 저랑 미둑자래 저랑 디레 니레 숨르사 망보지 라요도 아니 미 디셈버 조로야 다 셈버 교도 어때니 가족이 지금 미 규마에나 수이나 셈버 조그레 수이나 시당랑 그래 컨트롤랑 그래다 이나야다 나랑서 추치 gen지기나 다다 야슬랑네 지 시샤치나 ten dila ngaranzo ge lungma khondro manglawa chi sem jige magyoba chi teni digi len la khari chi gore sena teni jula de tsingshim ba khashi ji dos teni chi sungu.
So this is a situation that might be quite common, really. You know, anyone that we may have cared for since they were young, since they were children, perhaps. Of course, one's own children one would take care of, but it could also be someone else, friends or relatives that one might have taken care of from a young age. And having taken such good care of them, one has certain expectations in return, right? We think, well, you know, I've done so much for this person, so you know, in return, they will also help me out when the time comes. So we place a lot of hope in such people that we have helped out for a long time, giving them whatever they need, whether it's food or clothes, helping them out finding a house, a car, you know, whatever it is, just a person that one may have given a lot to, always treated well, permitted to study, if you know they needed to go to school, helping them to go to school. And so one day, you know, at some point, this child, young person, has grown up and has everything they need. They got an education which permitted them to get a good job, and they're making a good amount of money. And so they have everything they need. And at that point, they completely forget the kindness of the person who helped them out in the first place. Not only forgetting that person's kindness, but really being ungrateful and kind of mistreating the person in return, telling them, you haven't done anything for me. You're such a terrible person, and so on and so forth. So, anyone in that situation, having helped someone in that way and being then met with so much ungratefulness would be sad, would be saddened by the situation. Not only saddened, but most people would probably get angry and resentful, right? But if one is to practice practices of the Bodhisattvas, so if we aspire to practice Bodhisattvas, we wouldn't get angry at such a situation. We wouldn't be resentful or saddened even, but instead act as the rest of the verse says.
Ade ngama ngai ki kola chebar kyang ba yi te thanda ko ngala chu ja ta bo ta ki du da na shin shin ne ta ki du sam teni ngarang ju samlo khande tang bursna de ta bo ma da wa chi da ko danda chu ta na ya ko frang ta nga zo ngarang pa chebar kyang re di ki kha so ko re lok tup se ko re dile chi ki chap la ngala chu yang bu china sa ba rewa ma chi ba chi ne 다 코랑 알아 다다고 다에디 오 닝제 코랑 지게 뇨몽보 왕도 손 야네 마릭바이 왕도 손 야네 뇨몽바 셰당 되차 셰당 티고 근데 독수마 독마 그 왕도 손제 드니 코게디 마시니 땡알아 다다보지 따이 유레 삼바죠 근데 진 아마라도 삼로 땅고레스.
And so if such a thing happens, then when this person, seeing that this person whom we have cared for like our own children, now perceives us as an enemy, instead of being disappointed in our expectations, instead of expecting anything in return in the first place, when we see that this person now sees us as our enemy, how should we think? Actually, we should think, oh, this person is now perceiving me in such a bad light. They have fallen under the sway of the afflictions or of ignorance, right? They are influenced by desire, aversion, ignorance, the 3 poisons or the 5 poisons. And because of this, they don't see clearly. Right? They don't perceive me clearly, and that's why they're now seeing me as an enemy.
아라도 콩라 디 디다보게 미딜라 강사딜라 미규마 제나다 칼리 가버리나 최최최좀 나타나이나 디 지다 콜라 잠닝제 망마치 그랬어. 가르스나 김제 가르진 지고르스나 콩가마 애기 야보 치르다 야보 치와데 시민도 마시 두코닝제 코랑 뇽바도 자 야노 마릭바기 하마고 뇽몽바기 게 망부지기 지니 코게다 코랑 아비실 지금도 코 말로 따마소 다동파 닝제 치르지니 아제 닝제 코마 지교되고 하고미도 코 마릭바기 왕도 송도 삼네 다동 콜라야 제버 가서 그래 닝제 치르지니 콜라 다 가르치고는 소바고메 이날에 양나 콜라 야그로 양도 매만래 야그로 치고 그랬어. 지단다 자주 sembar다 보지나 양네 제네 야그로 치고 그랬어도 코란라 너드체로 가제 또나 디가스 간조파 야그로 치고
So of course, for the general ordinary person, this would be very difficult. But from the point of view of the Dharma, in such a situation, actually, such a person we would show them even more compassion and more loving kindness, because we see that they're perceiving us in a completely distorted way, And the reason that they are perceiving us in a distorted way is because they have completely come under the sway of the afflictions, right, of ignorance. So the more their ignorance or their afflictions grow, the more compassion we should feel for them, seeing that they're completely confused. As a bodhisattva, one would have even more compassion for them, showing them even more patience. The more confusion or ignorance this person shows, the more compassion we would have for them. So really, as a bodhisattva, the more a person makes mistakes and acts in a deluded way, the more compassion we then show them in return.
Dela dagi bushin jebar changwai da dagla dashin dabar chena ya nekita pula mashin do la parzawa jasalali nekita pula mashin do pena amachila puchik ma do pena puchirang je yobashi tini pudi nasasim tini pudi ta kola ke mangboji techi kola teni semba daya madeva cha nyumba do cha teni ko sanga singi cha ando ko amadila ke mambuji gyapso na ama kyo dukja re ama kyorang te re ni re sum re sa ama ge tsewa kyongyo de ko abishir chi ge ma chi baje ko ta korang ge naza yo ni korang ge nyumba cha sim marik ba ta nyumo ba wa do song ne te dukja da mena la ba ina amadila khaya no gu mare Amati ko ningje amati ko ke jabjo ko gi lunglangjo ko khongjo dan ko dile amagi sem ko semda yoma amagi khari semda yarsana ko ge nasa de thana khande chin thago na ningje nga bodi nadu ta ko shi na pesare ko nasa de ne chu thak to tup sona nga pe gasare sambacheni amati ge bodile chewa chewa yo nyamale chewa che nguri ma to chewa chungru chagu mare karsana ko ama budile chewa chumbo ko naza na de undu ko ke mangbo jabdo o ko naza de ge cheni ingure samne ama de ko chewa chembo yo de na shi de la labdo negita be bula mashin do lak par chewa jase la le lak par de ya chewa chero che de ni jasanam je la le res.
So as the text says, right, even if others whom I have cared for like children of my own should turn upon me and treat me as an enemy, to regard them only with special fondness and affection as a mother would her ailing child. This is the practice of all the bodhisattvas. So imagine a mother who has only one child, a mother who has an only child, and that child is sick, and the child, being very sick, speaks all sorts of crazy things, and it's like it yells at its mother, says all sorts of nasty things to its mother because it's completely delusional in its sickness. The mother in this situation wouldn't be hurt by her child's words. She wouldn't be angered or become impatient with her child being so delusional because of the sickness and saying all these nasty things. No, instead, she wouldn't be worried about what the child may be saying to her. The only thing she would be worrying about is that the child gets better, hoping, for the child's recovery, hoping that the child will not die. And so just feeling even more compassion, even more love and care for this child. Because she knows that the reason that this child to whom she has always showed so much love is, in its kind of delirium, spewing all sorts of nasty things to her is probably because of the illness, right? She knows he's just speaking under kind of the delirium of the illness. And so that's really the only thing she's worried about is it's getting better. And so she's feeling even more love, even more compassion. And this is exactly how bodhisattvas feel towards beings who are acting in mistaken ways due to the afflictions. Likewise, bodhisattvas only feel more love, more care, more compassion for these beings.
Madigi rangi pula tsewa chimbo di amadegi budila tsewa di tsewa cheru droma do tsewa chungru dhugu yo mare kasi budi ke ja kaze jamna jab de nangshin jirtang ngaranzo maju namge tada nyambe simje tamje la di tabu chige ta tekpa chimbo ji yini sungde tekpa chimbo ge nyamle chige ji yini sungde di nangshin ji ta gore ta simje tamji gi tanda amandi ge mag ki phula tsewa chungro mando wa cheru droba nangshin simje tamje la do ina ya ta tanda tekpa chimbo kaze dende machi ba ina ngaramzo tekpa chimbo yan chagu mare 다 이나야 ngaranzo tanda kapsu baba le thangbo indu teni kharechi khandeji nimi ba kom goresena ta tanda kapsu baba michik ta kirangla michik inne ba chimbo chigi yena michik madu michu changa de yoju mare chi dan kale khapur michik ta kirang be yabochi tsewachi kirang be yabochi digi lokjalla chula imaji dana chita rang khaze chebar zimba na chula lokjal chu tillela teni ko lung lang dana chita ba ina kirang nyamle kare chi ursana o tanda ngal tage midi koge ta molam dabuchini ani khorang la ta khorang dabu khorang tabu mi mangbo jungura simje mangboji ta mangboji ta de lokja machingi thi le majangle mi mangbo yora ya simje mangbol khonjo changma ki dunga de selba sho khonjo changma ge de dile lokjal de machingi de so changma la de de na chin ju yongbar so ose rangla khare kanga theba na shin ki pha simje thamji gi chedo ni bikwa komchi 콘솔라야 지게 가서 그래 딜렌데 잡아쇼 콘솔라야 되니 제와데 체로 좀 버쇼 충으로 마롱 마쇼 선이 몰람 잡고레스 근데 냠네티 나라 시도 그렇단다 레 담보기
So in this way, a mother in the situation where her child is ill would only feel her love would only grow and her compassion for that child would only grow no matter how much nonsense and kind of mean things that child speaks. Her love could only grow and not diminish, right, in that situation. So just in the same way, if we are practitioners of the Mahayana, the great vehicle, thinking of all beings, infinite as space is vast, who have been our kind mothers in the past, seeing all beings in this way, likewise, like the mother, we could only have our compassion grow when they are acting under the sway of delusion and of wrong perception, and not diminish, right? Now, of course, if one isn't able to act in this way, then one isn't really practicing the great vehicle. But even though this may be difficult, what we can do as beginners is when this happens to us with regards to one person, maybe not if it's a whole group of people, that may be difficult, but if such a situation arises with one person that we've treated well and that now is mistreating us in return and just perceiving us wrongly and seeing us as an enemy despite our kind treatment of them, what we can do as beginners is to make aspirations, thinking that this person, like so many other beings, is acting wrongly under the sway of delusion and misperception. And so thinking of that person and all the other beings who, under the sway of their misperception and delusion, act in these negative ways, hoping for them all to be freed from this suffering. So praying for all these beings to be freed from their sufferings. And in this situation, you can kind of just think of, visualize, think of all beings and pray for them to be free of suffering and for your own love and compassion for beings to only grow and never diminish. So this we can do, right? As beginners, we can make this type of aspiration that's possible for us to do.
Ana the Buddhigi Pamala Tilen Lobjal Senako Tilen Tumone Chenako Yabuchi Jodigi Tindila Pa Amala Yabuchi Goagi Tabla Denikogi Lobjal Chen Yabo Machirwa ko Amala Data Ke Japtera. Dinaji Kodam Draw the Mango Erada Simji Katsu Raya Yang Kashi Pama Puyungur Kashi Aja Jojo Baini Pinga da Chungmo da Topo Tomo the Mi Mangbo. The consul that Chilean Lokja Chigin Mitamaki number Mimbadi Rang the two Langin. So number Mimba Jera Koyana Consul Digi Dungal Tamji Nala member show Sene. The Nechine Yang China Digere and Kazi did our Gomtubaina. Tini the Rangla Yubigi the Tewaji Pa Simjin la Tayagi Chipper Zimba Segore Jizin Chiegi Sim Didi Chericher Dugur Simjin Pa Ani Lakbard Dengaranzo Tewa de Lakbardoya Cheru Dugures Kasing Detawaji Gombaina. Then in data Gomgendi Suresana the Kasi Chanju Simbat and Jures the Nechine to Lengiures Shing Dunga.
Now, people or beings who respond in mistaken ways to kind treatment, right? Who respond negatively to kind treatment, just like the example of the sick child who abuses his mother verbally, even though she has shown him so much kindness. Such beings many people act in this way, right? With their relatives, with their cousins, their aunts, uncles, whoever, right? There are many such situations in which people respond with abuse and negativity to kindness that was shown to them. And so what one can do is to make aspirations for the ripening of that karma, for that negative karma that they have accrued to ripen onto us, for the suffering that is the consequence of such behavior to ripen onto us instead. So one can meditate in this way. And if one is able to meditate in this way, to contemplate in this way, then definitely whatever root, whatever seed of care and love one has within oneself will grow and become stronger. And so cultivating this type of mindset is the practice of the Bodhisattvas.
We Melarabadabut. And a Melarabadabuina, Kongri Chungu Dusutini, Ashangda Ani, Nigipe, Tubudamur. Tubudan, you know, launches on top. Tini Piji Tamidam, Nang, Tangmach, Kaya Mebachi, Tini Amadepe Message Datagri, Tini Apa Drum Savachela Ama, Tini Korea, Tini Digi Kinchini, Konaya, Tini Ritual Pedro. Melareba. Teni the ritual pep cheyapo drup chedu. Teni nimaji ani peja ashan ani di tuga yong insar melareba. Ani kongre ke singmo di ta pe mese lung langri ashan ani setu dajan tagri. Pe mese datta che teni melareba tuga yong do ani di teni ya nangla ta melareba singmo di chilo la shuwe sare kongre nangla shuwe sare. Teni singmo di tanga ani tangi mes. Mese lung lang ji karsan khonsang ma konsul dubu mo bodang ro 다 아니들 멜레로 두고 연도 가지는 당기 매스 라병도 멜레로 마치 아니야 땅슈스 가르잖아 다 아니기 겐치니 멜레로 단다 콩리기 장주 심바 기다 지금 심 지신 투베 양나 된게 딱 투베기 누발레 디 아샤 안에 가딘 로아 디 인도 콩라 가이 요 말에 콩라 다다 제 요 말에 섬리나 심모디 냠레 마시도 되고 타마 다낭시 따되기도 다 멜레르바티 장주 심베기 심 장차도 되니 아니 디다도 오다게 요 말에 콩라 다론 제바 침부치니 콩기 가딘기 나단다 디가스 냠레 야포 차송 다 이랑디 아니디 야낭라 땅주스 아니 나 땅데스 되니 땅제네 아니들 계제야 보시는데 아니디 최망 보시르 멜레르바 군딘 최시제 되니 멜레르바 로마야 보지차라 아니디야 근데 로르죠 다데 인도 단다 감수 바바 지금 랑기 술라 다타게 가제 제버즘바 제제제 제버즘스네 제버 좀 이나야 술라 다타부 따이나 딜랭아 조파데 진짜 토바이나 미딜라야 펜도그리 라야 되니 장주sem바 디 락버데야 공별 차에기 괜찮게 레스
네, 싱무디 수레.
라 싱무 밀러르바이 싱무
시모. 라서.
곰제
하겠어. 라서 하겠어.
싱무
곰제.
곰제 바이니 sister
라서.
younger
라서.
sister only one sister
라서. 그린체. Milarepa was like this, right? Milarepa acted in this way, displayed this type of conduct when, as a child, when he was young, after his father died, his uncle and aunt mistreated him and his family terribly. They stole everything from him, left the family with nothing, him and his younger sister and his mother. They treated them terribly, basically treating them like servants and taking everything they had from him. And him at the time and his mother really perceived them as enemies. And this is actually what prompted Milarepa to go and do retreat in the mountains. But then one day, as he was meditating in the mountains, his aunt, the aunt who had abused and mistreated them so terribly, came to see him. And his younger sister was there with him, and his younger sister, who wasn't practicing, wasn't cultivating bodhicitta, wasn't practicing in the same way he was, she was terribly angry at seeing that aunt who had abused them so much. She really perceived her as an enemy. And so she didn't want to let her in, to let her, go and see Milarepa. But Milarepa didn't perceive things that way at all, because he had given rise to bodhicitta. And not only that, but it was actually due to the conditions for his bodhisattva practice, the conditions for his generating the mind of enlightenment was actually his uncle and aunt. So he perceived the kindness of their behavior in being the cause for his generation of bodhicitta, and didn't perceive them as enemies at all. So even though his younger sister didn't want to let the aunt go and see him, he told her, no, let her come in. And so the aunt came and met with Milarepa, and they talked, and she ended up actually receiving a lot of Dharma teachings from him and becoming quite a good student of Milarepa, the aunt, after this. So in this way, when someone perceives us as an enemy, if we just show them kindness and love in return, if we are able to do so, then not only can we benefit them, but also it will benefit us in being a cause for a condition for the generation of Bodhichitta, the mind of enlightenment.
Didi Tilin Lokjar Lamdu Kirba said the Sombare, the Sokawaki Chuni Ginani, Tilin Lokja Lamdu Kirba said the Niba the Yetab Java Lamdu Kirbas.
And so this was the first among these two practices for enduring difficult circumstances. The first being enduring the circumstance when kindness is repaid with abuse. And so the second one is enduring disparagement.
Didi Zawadi Rangda Nyambaham, maybe Kiwi, Majal Wangi, Yetab Jena Yang, Lama Shindu, Gubidani, Children Jaselali.
And so the root text for this reads, even if others equal or inferior to me in status should out of arrogance disparage me, to honor them as I would my teacher by bowing down my head before them. This is the practice of all the Bodhisattvas.
Rangda Nyamba, maybe Kiwi is the Rangda Nyam Sidu Karinyam Gosna, you know Longju Nyamba. Yana Hasokore, Zibu, Namba Yabo, Nyamba. Yana Lobjung Nyamba, Lobjung Yoga, today Nyamba. Yana Shuk Chumbo, Shuk Chumbo, you say, Kodangani, Chengadin Jibajibu, Male, call it Lars mother, today. Dubu the mess, the name of me, Mare. Ani that did out the Kari Hasita, Kodangani. Chikpa chikya is kariki tola inaya. Inga de dela sedo rang da nyamba am members na rayana tangile tokta takta khra rang le shuk chumba rang le yuno longje chumba rang le ya yende chumba ta didabo ge miji ngaja yogi miji ngajal wangi nyetab jena yang setu zani rang da nyambe mebe kewe ngajal wangi nyetab jena yang na 다 등산 되질 때 고만 로레 가와이나 미톱 주부 또 중중 런nhập 지에 다야나 또 중중게 첨부 런nhập 지에디 녀답스는 nhập 지에 불리체 돌 다디 미랑라 충바 멤버 양랑다 냠바 미지기 랑치부 여사레 양나야 미망기라 오 Shu Tokro Chumbu, Karihale, you said, or the Kirami Dujare said, the Kirayang, the Bumindu said, the Kiram Pango said, Kiran Lobjong Mijore said, or that Migmar Lamna, Ranga Yambiki Miji, Kansaji, Yoba, Digi Lamna, Nichu Chibaina. And Dick Naranzo Dile Lane, that is a me Palba Dovajina, Maranzo, Lamsang Palen Logroya. Pai Rashi, Kare, Kyongal Duja like you do, Kirang Dujare. Kerang bangore, kerang European majors like rolla. Like Tata Kapsu Baba, Janju Semba, Yamlin Chiginjina. Tinipa Lamanashi, Gubit Danikis, Jurlepas. Tatila Pa Data Madawachi. Kola Len Lopa Tuja Matuvachini, Yeju Pa Machuvachini, Kogi Yeju di Two Courage Gursana, Courage Langursana. Rangi lama nashi chini chu chiur lengores.
So others equal or inferior to me in status. This basically means, when we say equal to me in status, someone who is perhaps equally rich or affluent, or equally beautiful, nice, good-looking, equally educated, intelligent, or perhaps equally strong if if you're a strong person. So any quality that one may have, someone who is has the same degree of that quality, or someone inferior to us in any of these qualities, right? Likewise, so someone who is less educated than us, less strong, less good looking. If some such person, out of pride, under the sway of pride, would disparage us, bully us, basically, criticize us, and so on, either when we're alone or among other people, telling us, "Oh, you're a terrible person. You think you're great. You're terrible. You're ugly. You're weak. You're not. You're stupid. Whatever it is." So such a person who is either equal to us or inferior to us in that way, and then decides, under the sway of pride, to disparage us, to bully us. In such a situation, any normal person, any ordinary person, would immediately strike back, right? Immediately respond with a similar insult. If someone tells you, "Oh, you're terrible," no, you're terrible, right? We'd immediately kind of strike back in kind. But someone who is practicing the Bodhisattva's practices would not see such a person as an enemy. Quite on the contrary, in response to this type of disparagement, they would in turn perceive that person as their own guru, as their teacher, bowing down their head before them.
지울 랭거비 김젠데 가리 간신의 랭게를 세나 알아서 코르와도마 메바네 다다바도 코르와라 참고에 그 참에게 짜와디 아니 도자시다 티모 맞아 차도 델라테네 코르와 인두 델라테네 알아서 참마 코르와라 참바르 다다 나랑 코르와라 참데도 다 ngala ko gi nyapji shie di ngala phembo jumus ngala phembo ju ko gi nyapji shie di dugja la de ngala phembo ju khare resna ngala deja shedan de mo ngaja thado du di chembo du di dela chinne de gyula te ne de nga khwa cham so re nga tunga nyang so re ta danda ko ngala nyapji chi du ngala phe khare jin phenge resna ko nyebji che di peje kole ngaja cheba injures ngaja tarzana deja shedan te mo ngaja etu ti ngaja gi ta ko ngal dugja la du ngal labsu ne ngaja cheru do ngaja gi chin ngal phogo yora ta danda deja shedan te mo ngaja di ko ngal nyebji che du ngal phendo bar tarzana ko ngaja ngara ha ko recognize chi chu ra ko ngal ngaja duksen teni ngarala ngaja ngoshe ha gore ta tring ne sunde ngaja chung ri chigi yi ko ngal dine lapson ngaja la pe phokson ta tring ne ngaja de nga chung ri chin ma do diksa mare sambada oji gi phendo gore de indu zan minya chu che de kola phendo barda de phendo wa di kazi nyomomba chung ri kazi ma ya song bare nyomomba kazi chung ri doe imbo khare 양나 디기 탑다오 카리 직템바 이나야 디 라미기 두시 샤고레스 랍서 가진 게비시니 기 두시 샤고레스 디당 직바라 단다티 디 콜라 파 레마로 바치 람사 랑기 찌우르 렌스나 다 윤딩기 치두 찌우르 랭고레스 렌치니 디니 랑라 나자 뉴용로 충로 땅에 기 탑차도 겐차도 니 랑기 찌우르 랭고레스 디마도 나랑서 뇽 뭐 가자 충으로 그 탑시 심바 민도야 다 디디 뭐네 지나 탑시 약속들이 세 뭐고
And so the reason why we should bow our heads to such a person, taking them as a teacher, is because we have all been wandering in samsara since beginningless times, and the root cause of that wandering in the sufferings of samsara is desire, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy. Those are, it's based on these emotions that we wander in suffering, that we all wander in the sufferings of samsara. And so therefore, in this situation, when such a person insults us or disparages us, it's actually beneficial to us. To be insulted in this way is very beneficial. The reason for this is because the reason we wander in samsara continuously is because we have such strong afflictions, right? It's because we have such strong desire, aversion, ignorance, pride, and arrogance. So that being the case, most likely we have pride, right? Pride is one of the causes for wandering in samsara. And if this person is disparaging us, trying to put us down, insulting us, it's likely because they've identified this pride in us. They've recognized that we have pride. It's because they see the pride in us that they want to put us down. And so when such a person then puts us down or disparages us, then we can see, oh yeah, they have identified my pride, they have seen my pride. This is a sign that I need to work on reducing my pride. I need to focus on reducing my pride. It's really not okay, you know, from this moment on, now that they have pointed out my pride to me. So it really wouldn't be okay for me not to work on reducing my pride. And that's how being put down in this way is actually beneficial to us. Because like I said earlier, that which is beneficial is whatever works as an antidote to the afflictive emotions, or whatever, whoever shows you the method for reducing the afflictive emotion, such a person one should consider as our own spiritual friend, right? We mentioned this before. So in this way, this person is acting as an antidote or showing us the methods for reducing afflictive emotions. And that's why, rather than responding in kind, when they put us down, responding with like disparagement, instead, because they actually have the quality of the virtuous friend, the quality of the spiritual guide in pointing us to the method for reducing the afflictive emotions. Instead, we should regard them as a spiritual friend and therefore bow our heads down to them. Because really, when you think of it, there really is no other method for reducing one's pride, is there? This is basically the best way to identify and reduce your pride.
Mala ngaja da dagzi jumbe gi chedu dini ko ngala nyeju she shas dini ko ngala nyeju she goe gi jumzen dus kare resna ngarang la ta ngarang zo mi geba nyeju she goe jumzen de kare resna kera ngala dosham ni du ngala shedang ni du ngala ani timuk ni du ngala thaduk ni du ta ngala nyomo ma chama dus de indu ngone tane ko ngala nyeju she goe gi jumzen dus de chini ko ngala nyeju she shas nyeju she de ta da ba da se ko lega me ba chini she ba insa mare de indu ngara la pen sons ta ngara gi doja she dang timuk ngaja pa jume gi chido she ba indu tene de rang ge chawi lame na shin chini lengo res midila ani yana chawi lama ge tulba yin pe injures sanji tulba chaji de tulba ji pe kerang ge lam te ji de pe insare levin sare yana ni ko ge ge ngaja ha go ne ngaja ma 충로 나 땅에 당하자 하고 뭐시기 탑라 드니 셰바 인사레 디마이나 숨바디 양 코랑게 갈라 덴데 라비용도 마랑게 땅 아자 요바데 하고치 도자시나 티목시다 창마 하고치니 땡아 드링니 숨데 디 하고에기 톡 람기르 깬다오지기 콩고 땡송데 드링니 송데가 드니 아자 충으로 지기 랑라 팽겨다 덴데 지다 토바이나 다디 마다바이나 데니 다 다다 바타바이나 데니 묘몽바 왕도 드라야 아자 치르 드라야 마도 충 자고 말레스.
So really, when a person puts us down or disparages us, they are helping us overcome our pride, helping us overcome our self-clinging. And so therefore, when a person puts us down in this way, they do so with good reason, right? Because we have afflictive emotions. We have desire, anger, ignorance, pride, jealousy. We have all the afflictive emotions. And the reason why they are disparaging us or putting us down is because we have afflictive emotions. They have good reason to do so. And it's not, and so if then this has an effect, if they put us down and we then kind of follow through on that, then that would be beneficial to us, right? If we take it to heart, that then is beneficial to us. And that's why we can perceive such a person just as our own root guru, or perhaps as an emanation of our guru or of the Buddha or Bodhisattvas. They are showing us the way, they're showing us the path. Or one can think in that way, or one can think, oh, you know, the reason they are putting me down is because they have seen that I'm proud. And so they are pointing out my pride to me. And so in that way, they're beneficial to me. Or one can think, oh, they see that I have the afflictive emotions. They see that I have anger, jealousy, pride, ignorance, desire. And so from now on, now that they've pointed this out to me, I will work on reducing my afflictive emotions. And therefore, they were a conducive condition for my practice. They were an aid on the path because they pointed out my afflictions to me. So from now on, I will reduce my pride. If we're able to see disparagement in this light, when someone puts us down, if we're able to see it in this way, then that would actually be extremely beneficial to us. On the other hand, if you don't see it in this way and you just perceive that person as an enemy, as someone who has done you wrong, then that will only lead to the further increase of your anger, pride, and so on, right? It'll only lead to an increase in afflictive emotions.
아디다고 따보지기 집을 렌바이나 되니 야스 장주 semba 남지 라렌 차그레스 집을 렌 통이지나 다 렌마 통이지나 된 야스 장주 semba 남지 알레 차고 말레스.
So in this way, if you are able to bow your head down to such a person, then you are able to practice in the way of the Bodhisattvas. If you're not able to do so, then you're not practicing in the way in the Bodhisattvas.
아디로 냠린치 투바이나 되니 쥐 땅고 말레스. 다루키제 시메트릭 드로션 된 쥐 땅고 말레. 디그란 디게르 나자다 다진 좀내기 치도 탑차양도 렌라버라디 나도 지소나 차데게레스 키랑서 가와 슈기나레 라시디레 양나 타운레 스토포 도모르디 가와 예나 요데레 다 인지미지 두트도 다루키 곰발 드로진 장고 말레디 다 나자다 다진 좀내치도 다탑 렌라쇼디 가와얀 장 모고 가와얀 피샤테니 도 모고 리트 도 모고 키랑 가와 예나 디 요요바레 디 랑기치올 렌투 바이나 되니 그 비샤테 먹어 얘네 장 먹어 가와이나 게게 되나 요레스 가와이나 가와 도나.
If you're able to practice in this way, then you don't need to practice truth. right? You don't need to practice the severance practice, go to the cemetery and do all these practices. You already have your method for overcoming pride and overcoming self-clinging. You can stay wherever you are, wherever you live, in the city, in the countryside, wherever you are. You don't need to go to retreat. You don't need to go to the monastery. You know, you don't need to pay to go to train or to learn or to practice. This is the easiest method for practice, the easiest method for overcoming your pride and your self-clinging. Because if you're able to practice in this way, then wherever you are and whatever you're doing, without needing to get into any specific practices, if you're able to bow your head down and see as a teacher whoever disparages you, then wherever you are, your teacher is there, right? No need to go anywhere specific. If you're able to practice in this way, then your pride and your self-clinging will be just naturally overcome.
And in that day, Kerazo Hakovaina, de Kawaina, you the rest, Chitubegi Kerala.
And this type of difficulties can happen anywhere, right? They can happen at home, they can happen in the shops, they can happen in the office. This type of difficulty happens anywhere. So if you know to practice this way, then you can practice wherever you go, wherever you are.
It's all the Rang Nyambaji, Miji, Laba Inare, Rang member, Rang Layang, Tos Kuchumba, Sobda Chumbaji, Migi Nyabjishan, Bare, that the needy Kazikaranzola Tubaina, Miji, Laba Ina, Ramina, Majagi love song, Samba, Jini, Lamana Shin, Tatubaina, Pemese Abures.
So here mainly this is concerning either someone who is equal to us in circumstances, or someone who is inferior to us in their circumstances. And so if either of these two types of people disparage us or put us down, then if we are able to recognize that they are pointing out our pride, and that this is a beneficial method for reducing our pride, and we're able to see them as a guru, then that's a great practice. So we'll stop here for today. We've covered these two circumstances that are difficult to endure. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. Da Michiki Nanso Tukula manipulation Kingi Ope.
Manipulation Sena Ma Nimbarwa.
Dimare da Michiki Nanso ta Kare Chema Dupa. Michiki da di Nanso Cheru Duyagi Tap Jamindata manipulation Sevna Tamichiki Changpo Machine Tap Jaminda Pichigire Nanso di Chik Cheru Juyaki Chetu.
Oh,
It's Gokortane. Dami Dinde Yena Nanso Karechigore.
Tati Raman so that cousin I Shubana Shiriang, also Jazalang Nang Sundu and the Chigores and Yang, Rang Jumse Yaboji Mashivaji, Rang Assembly Yaboji Majambachini, and the Lagadus and that manipulation Kadichinaya Chige Kasore. Kolaya, Takayo Mares, and you shall not to give Mare. Similar Pinky Mare, Najachung Chago Mare, and him 이 다진 된소 총으로 자금 말해 다 드네차 운도자니 삼로 당주리 다 정보 쉬나 최종의 삼로 당나 삼로야 뭐 당. 미디기 가르치는 매니플레이션 지기도 나랑라 코 양나니 코 뇨몽바 마릭바기 왕도 송바레 양나니 코랑라 미기 고고르기 쿠땅니 코 고코르바레 미심바기 고코르 무일라가 야나지 심바지라 가니 콜라 고고르템 다 미디기 아니 ngallo manipulation chi injure 단지 숨바나시 안은 코랑라 가자 첨부지기 예도 디코 나자기 왕도 송네 코 ngallo manipulate chi injure 야나니 코 나니야지 되바 마랑라 고야지 나기 균이 다지 야나 차도 세고레 차도 기체니 manipulation 치 인규레 다 삼나 막보지 땅 용나 콜라 manipulation 치 고야기 겸센지 가르토거르스나 다 마릭 바왕도 송에다 대차 셰당기 왕도 송네 콘 manipulation 치레 디 케랑게 하 고송나 테니 칼레 요 마리 닝제 삼바질리기르 마도 콜라 양도제 셰당 케랑라 도제 셰나 요요레 이나야 케랑 요바디 펜토고 민도sen kiran hak gogoyore doje shedang wang to songsona ngale dunga yungre koraya dunga wang yungre ma do kole khepsan yung mare dewa yung mare sa hak gore hak go yung do kiran ge phala dige len la ani chi nyomong ba wang do gi wang nyomong ba ki nyambu drebe gi len ti jag mare ningji gi wang do ningji gi deni tabam dige ningje da jam da ningji gi 통네 키랑을 렌제 바이나 이 콩라 핑그레 키랑라에 핑그레스 녀몽바 충으로 차그레 아니 랑게야 다진 충으로 차그레 랑제 버진바데 충으로 뇽으로 차그레 셴 제즈야 비야 공도 펠도 그레스.
So the question was, how would this work with manipulation when someone is trying to get you to do things you do not want to do? So all of these practices, they're not about blindly doing something without really understanding the point or without really understanding the reason for behaving in such a way. So one really needs to kind of understand what the underlying reasons for the practices are. Because whatever it is, if our conduct, if our practice isn't helping to reduce our pride, if it's not reducing our self-clinging, then it's not beneficial, right? It's not working. It's not the correct type of practice. So in any situation, we really need to reflect. We really need to think. For example, in a situation where someone is manipulative, we really need to reflect on why they are being manipulative, right? Either they are acting out of their own afflictive emotions, they're acting out of ignorance, they need something, they're trying to get something that they want, money or something. Or perhaps they are, acting out of seeing our pride and trying to put us down because they have identified our pride. Or perhaps perhaps they're manipulating us due to our own desire, our own jealousy, and they're kind of using that against us. So we really need to reflect and kind of try to understand why such a person would act in this way. But whatever it is, it always comes down to when a person is, acting negatively, such as being manipulative. It'll always come down to them acting out of the afflictions, right? Acting out of ignorance. So in any case, once we have kind of understood their situation, their motivations, seeing that they are acting out of ignorance, seeing that they are acting out of affliction, then it's not really difficult. We know that the only response is compassion, right? That the only thing we can have is loving kindness and compassion for that person, because we know that reacting with anger or attachment or whatever it is will only harm us. It won't benefit us to respond with anger or respond with jealousy or whatever it is. So that won't help the situation. The only thing that will help is to respond with loving kindness and compassion. Anger, jealousy, and so on will only harm us. And on top of that, we know that this person's behavior, this person's manipulative behavior, that is only going to be the source of suffering for them as well, right? Negative behavior only brings suffering. It doesn't bring any good for that person. So understanding this, understanding that that behavior is harmful to them, then we can, instead of responding with further afflictions, with further negative emotions, we can instead respond with compassion and loving kindness. And that's really the best way to respond to any situation. It'll not only be beneficial to them if we treat them with loving kindness and compassion, but it will be greatly beneficial to us because it will reduce our own afflictions, it will reduce our pride, our self-clinging, and it will increase our cherishing of others. Asu aninipa. Ta mikashiki nansu chugu tan chutsok la niepa china ani mijen la nansu nansu chutsok la madoya ki parche china karechi gureya. Nansu chugu la me pachena parche china.
Tadi tamboshena Tisugi nyingiresena ta kasi chozo la dwayo mare chozo dukjare yakbore seeti mi kumaji ki dagas labachamji chozo de dukja imbada lineage dukja imbada nyamlin che meba seeti chidan sembabe chungjure mi nyunyu nyingirdi mi ta yede re korang pajo di miji ki gangsa di tos chöshe de genji ina 다 미직디 최지에 시에요 말에 고 최기 냠뇽레 최기 롭종레 제로이나 다코 년시규리 가르선 파조 미디 롭종 지에레 코게 알라딘데 랍송 초조 독자레 초조 드라이요 말이 냠네 제요 말에 세기도 인주레 삼바디 타직도 잡기 말에 디 인도전에 라나소소 딱지당 상기 준비 남베기 최 남로라야 상기게 송유레 가세 네기 계란 빅바 트투고야 말에 네기 계란라 가르치르스는 탑 직대 유래 디디 계란게 레 말레 계란게 라바레 이나야 네기 탑 땡겨 딜라 계란게 딱지 땅부레스 딱지 찌고레스 딱지 마지나 서제다 버서신도 레버탈라 나이까 송을 상기 좀네데 chozo jibul chozo droel malase ko yakbo re marese michi ke labar samji dige rangi ya tak chitang mi ke malaba ina ya rangi ya tak chitang mi ke labar samji tak chitang wa samji kyagma rangi ya tak chitang sangi jumne di ke khong ke kala ya tak chitang sung ge re te ngarang zo da le yin tin sang ke chu ta chozo re lama re chu chi ma shi se di rangi tak chi o tang gore di indu ngarang zo nang ba sangi ke chu 상기 좀네데 라 미타 지당기 할레레 콩 케버도 파버 레세 김정 가르르스나 넘버 상기기 최대 등상의 사이언티스트 다 잡어요 프로세스에 그러다 최 지당디 마랑조 상기기 최대라 퇴비 셔럽 삼비 셔럽 곰비 셔럽 세 셔럽 숨메르 디 셔럽 숨디 당보 곰비 셔럽 마랑조 하고 말에 삼비 셔럽 하고 말에 데도 담보 퇴비시라 고조 그랬어. 퇴 그랬어. 미니 퇴나레 라메니 퇴나레 수니 퇴나레 퇴고래 아니 녜 드니 디줄라 퇴바잠지 디규마 단지 미디기 초조 약보 말에 에 냠렌제 요 말에 미 약보 말에 퇴래 다 퇴바잠지 디규마 쌈바치고냐 딱제당 모르다 코 라바잠지가 이제 지금에서 간 라인 발랭가 딱제당 모래 초조 약보 도미도 라마디 규바 리니지 약보 도모 딱제 약보 땅 최들라 딱제 약보 땅 차베질 오 다데 최데 뭐네 약보르도 다 미디 라바즈 간제 말에도 나랑 그나 딱제 땅 나랑 태좀 치어서 태좀 매 땅만 냠는 지기 주주디 있는데 드로그 다 근데 중간에 산지 그랑 알아서라 탑 약보지 송샤 내가 네가나 러시안 디게 레스
So the next question was, how should we do when some people criticize and disparage our Dharma lineage and center and try to tell people not to join our practice? Well, first of all, you got to think if someone is disparaging your Dharma center, your lineage, are people really listening to that? How influential is that? Would that person be? I mean, that's the first question, because if this is just some random ordinary person who doesn't know much, who's criticizing your Dharma center, your Dharma lineage, probably not a lot of people will listen to them, right? Now, if there's someone who does, who is knowledgeable, who has some influence, then maybe, they will have more influence. People will listen to them more. But most likely, some random person criticizing your lineage or your center, that won't have such a widespread effect. But then, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, whether someone criticizes your Dharma lineage, practice, center or not, in any case, you should investigate yourself. You should examine yourself. You should examine your lineage. You should examine your center, whether someone is there to criticize them or not. The Buddha himself said, I cannot wash your negativity away. I have only shown you the path, but I have only shown you the method. But now whether you put it into practice or not is in your own hands. And likewise, the Buddha said, you need to examine my words just like a goldsmith would examine gold. So the Buddha told us we need to investigate for ourselves. Even the Buddha's own words, we cannot accept without examination. We cannot take for granted, right? We need to check for ourselves whether it's true or not, and so likewise, if that applies to the Buddha and the Buddha's own words, then it applies to our own teachers, our lineage, our centers. We need to check, we need to examine whether they are good or bad, whether it's true or not, what is being said about them. It applies all the more to us if that applies to the Buddha, that we can't trust blindly. We can't accept things blindly. We need to investigate for ourselves. So in this way, Buddhism in a way is similar to science in that there's a whole process to it, right? It consists of the three wisdoms, knowledges, the wisdom of studying, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation. And you can't get the wisdom of meditation without the wisdom of contemplation. You can't acquire the wisdom of contemplation without first having the wisdom of study or of listening. And for that reason, one first needs to listen. One first needs to hear the Dharma from a guru, from a teacher, from whomever, but one first needs to learn. So one needs to hear the Dharma, learn the Dharma, and then reflect on it, right? And it's only through reflection or contemplation that one comes to know whether one can trust what is being said, whether it's true, whether it's helpful, whether it's good. So the Buddha in this way taught us that we need to contemplate, we need to investigate the Dharma to check that it is true. And so, if upon investigation, if upon reflection, we find that whatever that person is saying about our lineage or our center is not true, and that we find that actually the lineage, the center, the practice are helpful, are true, are beneficial, then we won't have any doubt anymore, and we know that we can go and participate in the center. So really the Buddha taught this, right? Taught how we should respond to such a situation.
지다 당보 가라서 레 당보라 태좀 고레스 미 가서 가든니 태좀 수요 고레스 남보에 쳬라 태좀 메나드니 태좀 삼산이 고고 탭시기 고고 몽베기 데바세지로 몽데세기 고고 몽고 탭기 이 몽데세디 참참 람도 죽나 거 약보 책이래 그 람상 데바 몽데지기 그 라마 약보지 탭 쳬저 약보지는 거 약보 차루 몽데디 양 약보지면은 몽데지고 로시나 산이 고고 탭제 라마 고도지 탭 저저 고도 냠랭 고도지 랑 냐버도에 주자도 그랬어. 디 인도산이 다 디토삼 곰숨 약보 시샤신이 드로바이나 다 산이 미지 결혼 쳐서도 약보 말다 최제요 말다 딜라마 약보 리니지 약보 말했으나 you no need to worry I know 지랑 하고 예스 결혼 라고 말했어. 디 가리 가르서 나랑 딱지 딱상사래. 디 결혼 태좀 매래. 결혼 몽데가 왕도 시켜고 말했어. 디 캡산지 요래. 디 인도산지 결혼 강좀 디 숨숨이랬어.
When we first start to practice as beginners, we need doubt, right? We need doubt because if we just have blind faith can be misleading. Blind faith can be deceiving. Sometimes someone with blind faith, if they meet with the right circumstances, if they meet with the right guru, and they're brought onto the right path, that can be beneficial. But the problem is if you have blind faith and you don't meet with the right circumstances, you meet with the wrong teachers, you meet with the wrong groups, then that will be a cause for like a decline, right, in your practice. It'll be a cause for you to go astray. So that's why the Buddha taught that we need to build on the wisdom of studying, and then wisdom of contemplation and the wisdom of meditation. And in that way we gain certainty. And once we have gained certainty through study, contemplation, and meditation, then if someone talks badly about our lineage or about our Dharma center, telling us, oh, you shouldn't go, they're bad and everything, you'll tell them, don't worry, like, no need to worry. I already know. I have no doubt. I've made up my mind, right? And the reason you've made up your mind is because you've investigated, you've reflected, and you have arrived to a decision without any doubt. 아니 디셴다 자푸자푸른 난수 미치키 난수 라말라 난수 라말라 메파체나 미치키 난수 가르치고 그래서
나조 가르치고 그러잖아. 라마디 가르치고 그러. 라말 독자라나 라마 쿠란 가르치고 삼로땅 뭐 건조 가르치고 말해서 쿠란을 간라요 말할.
So the next question was, if someone criticized our own guru, what should we do? You don't really need to do anything, right? Maybe the guru can think about what they need to do, but you don't need to do anything about it.
You just practice what the guru says. Just follow that. Kiranzo lama kare sumba kashin do tini nyamne chis loma shimba miji ki lagi na manye so kurang kare lamna lapchos lama de khoba ina lama kona reaction kare chima ji lama na rali gres kiranzo da lama kare sumba nyamne chis kiranzo rang ngone tini chige damje sumne re nyamne chiere lama la deba chiere di rana suzo ngone rana suzo gengur chi gores responsibility re rana suzo gi chikir gores mi shemba responsibility kiran kir sa agyo mares choi ton rang nyo momba de chungro tang se ge ma do kiran mi chido chini kiran dukja lagi do o ta de dukja la ne kiran nyo momba chero cha du go re kiran judgment ji ge re teni kiran nyo momba nyung ru cha go ma lama la thesum ke gyu cha du ken cha du go res.
All you need to do is practice what the teacher tells you to practice. It doesn't really matter what other people do or say. You don't need to listen to what other people say. Just practice what your guru has told you to practice. And then how the guru decides to react to other people's criticism or other people's words is up to the guru. That's their business. Your business is to keep your samaya, to keep your faith in your guru, and to practice what the guru says. That's your responsibility, right? You need to take responsibility for yourself, not for other people's actions. The Dharma is not about worrying about other people's afflictions. The Dharma is about reducing your own afflictive emotions, not working on other people's afflictive emotions. So others can say whatever they want, but if you then react to that in any way, then that will likely be a cause for your afflictive emotions to grow. It'll likely be a cause for your afflictive emotions to increase and not to reduce. It might be a cause for you to start doubting the guru. So best not to listen to what other people say and just worry about your own state of mind.
There is one joke here. Yama Tawajo sir, Chatung sir, Capilla, and Chatung de sir. Mini lesson, Korani conversation, Chidi Sarala. Midi oh, Ke Kushola, Ke the day Chatung sat and the letu, Jana Gombala Madeva Chini, and the day Kusho, the day Chopang and Bat and Nansine, Petikbak Hagamare, Yabo Yomares and the Labin Sarola. The mini de Kushola. Ani Tava de Kiran Gewasaki and Kirangi Gewa the Nagi Lingi me. Kazi ngay digwa sake yona ngay digwa chana la te meong sis labis. Nashir.
Amadi hakumasan chava karisungsan?
Oh, chava chatung de so ra la kefila.
Nasa hakasan.
Mini yongje ko chidok chimbo da chidok chimbo mini yongje kanani keje shiyangdo oh chava dende kinzo kefi dende drochogure wes tin sa ra la.
Nasa.
Chava kusho dende nyamlen chine yakochin de masha ni kefi dende yuk dende sin da chidok chire. Ani kiranzo machi bachini digba shata digba yungu marewesen da kefi do na. Chava le dende lab insare. Kiranzo digba yo marewe chinde no do chamde chopa ngemba chine kiranzo digba yungu marewesen lab insare wala. Chava la. Ani chava degi len kare sumbai resena. Oh ken nambani semra go mares. Kiran ni semra machis. Don't worry. Kerang gewa chigyo de ngai le meyons lengi mes gewa dubai na boju khari chibai na nga lengi mes kasi ngai digba chigi kasi ngai digba kerang la te meyons
Oh lasso hagasan. So there's a joke. There's a joke about like two people going into a cafe, and there's a monk there having tea in the cafe, and so they're like two very kind of body people, and they go and kind of tease the monk, saying, should you be here? Isn't that kind of a break of your virtue? Shouldn't you be, or of your discipline? Shouldn't you be in the monastery practicing? Is that all right for monks to be like sitting around in a cafe? Isn't that misbehavior for a monk? Won't you accrue kind of negative karma from this? And so they're teasing the monk in that way. And the monk responds, oh, you don't need to worry. Whatever virtue you do, that won't ripen onto me. And whatever misdeed I commit, I'm not going to give that to you. I'm not going to give my negative karma to you. So like that. So just in that way, whatever actions you do, they won't, the consequences, the results of those actions won't ripen onto someone else. And however other people act, their actions won't, the consequences of their actions won't ripen onto you. So you don't need to worry about how other people act, but just take responsibility for how you act. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. And we'll dedicate the merit now.